the structure of the egoic mind is wanting. The wanting is structural. Hi TJ. What we want may change. So what I want may be at a certain time this, shopping for this, or wanting that from the world, or wanting, so the content may change. But the wanting is structural. And that's what I mean in my book, Hungry Ghosts, about the addiction process. So that there's a fundamental addiction process. That's the same for every addict. And I define addiction as any behavior that is associated with craving, temporary relief, and an inability to give it up despite negative consequences. But it goes way beyond that. That's the nature of it. Wanting, craving, temporary relief when you get it, and long-term negative consequences. And that's what an addiction is. And that wanting is structural in the egoic mind. No wonder then we have such a problem with addictions in this society, which promotes that, as I'll say in a moment. And Almas has got a wonderful image, funny and maybe disturbing at the same time. Basically all just babies wanting a tit to suck on, he says. We look at every other human being as a tit. And we're wondering, where's the nipple? And is it big enough? Is it contain enough milk for me? And will I like the milk? Or will it turn sour? Is it going to make me feel good, or will it give me a tummy ache? Or is the tit too big and will it smother me? So he says, basically, all human beings, we're all like a bunch of tits walking around looking for the nipple. Well, again, that's just another way of saying what Tolle also says, is that the wanting is structural. So that when you say to yourself, I'm an addict, well, no, you're not. You're a human being. You're a human being. The degree of your wanting, of course, is related to the degree of emptiness that you experience, and that the degree of emptiness that you experience is very much related to what happened to you very early in life. And before I go there, let me just also say that, again, it's not a personal problem, it's in the very nature of the world. And in the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, the Sogyal Rinpoche says that the greatest achievement, he says, of our Western civilization, he says, the greatest achievement of modern culture, he says, is the brilliant selling of samsara. Samsara meaning the Sanskrit term for suffering. So that the greatest achievement of our culture, he says, is the brilliant selling of suffering. And its barren distractions. Modern society seems to me, he says, a celebration of all the things that lead away from truth, make truth hard to live for, and discourage people even from believing it exists. So that the very culture we live in denies that there's truth, makes people hungry, hurts people, leaves them isolated, therefore empty, therefore wanting satisfaction from the outside, therefore addicted, and then it creates all these products and all these activities and all these cultural diversions to fill the very emptiness that it creates. And then they say, that selfishness is the nature of human beings. And there's the complete circle of the ideology. Well, as Eckhart points out, that every addiction arises from an unconscious refusal to face and move through your own pain. Every addiction starts with pain and ends with pain. And as I've often said, in the downtown East Side, where I worked for 10 years, I hardly met any woman, and really maybe one, I remember meeting one, who said she had not been sexually abused, everybody else had been. So that the greater the pain, the greater the addiction. And that pain always goes way, way back. There's a very interesting relationship between the word attachment and the word attachment. In Buddhist terms, attachment is the craving and the holding on to things in an unhealthy way. We're attached to our possessions, we're attached to our looks, we're attached to all the things that are passing and evanescent, temporary and unsatisfying. And that's what creates suffering, is the attachment. So there's that word attachment in the Buddhist sense. Then there's the word attachment in the modern psychological sense. And attachment means love. Attachment means the drive to be close to somebody in order to be taken care of or in order to take care of. So that in my book with Gordon Neufeld on Hold On to Your Kids, about the need for children to attach to parents and what happens when that attachment is lost, we're talking about attachment in a positive sense. It's very interesting that the same word is used, because the reality is the less you had of that positive attachment, the more you're going to have of that negative attachment. So the degree to which you attach to food, the degree to which you attach to substances, the degree to which you attach to attention, the degree to which you attach to television, any external behavior. And as somebody said, all addictions are ways of trying to get from the outside, trying to solve your problems from the outside. So the more attached you are to getting something from the outside, the more it means that you never had in the first place the attachment in the positive sense. So addictions, there's no big, again, the profession and thinkers and so on, they make a big mystery out of addiction. What is this all about? Why would people do these things to themselves which hurt them and destroy them and blight the lives of their children and their families? There's no big mystery about it. The less attachment you had, the less your attachment needs were met as a child, the more attached you're going to be to getting it from the outside. And you might get it through relationships. So, for example, you might never have a substance addiction in your whole life, but you just might be a nice person. And you're a nice person all the time because you need to be liked. Why did you ever need to be liked? Because you did not get your attachment needs met. You were not accepted for who you were. You were not loved for who you were. Therefore, in order to get love, that song, you might as well face it, you're addicted to love. Well, that's the nature of this society. A lot of us are addicted to love, and a lot of us will we contort ourselves into pretzels in order to get that love. So some people are very, very nice, and they make themselves very, very nice. So nice they end up getting cancer. And that cancer is very much a manifestation of not even being loved in the first place, and therefore they suppress themselves in order to be liked, and that self-suppression ends up suppressing their immune system. That again is a whole other conversation, but that too comes from the need to get something from the outside. So the less we had that attachment given to us in the first place, the more we try and crave it and try and get it from the outside, which is the very nature of addiction. So at the heart of addiction, there's loss and there's pain. And what is the nature of that pain? And Eckhart says that basically all emotions are modifications of one primordial, undifferentiated emotion that is its origin in the loss of awareness of who you are. And so that the big loss is not that your mother didn't love you, or your father didn't love you the way, or even that they abused you. That's not the big loss for any of us. And so, in my work, although it's important to understand what happened to people as children, it's not sufficient. It doesn't matter how many times you go through the trauma that you experienced as a 5-year-old, whether you were abused or mistreated or what. It doesn't matter, because that wasn't your big problem. And as Alma says really eloquently, he says, the fundamental thing that happened, and the greatest calamity, is not that there was no love or support. The greater calamity, which was caused by that first calamity, is that you lost the connection to your essence. That is much more important than whether your mother or father loved you or not. So the big thing then is not to focus on what happened externally and how do I get that from the outside, but how do I reconnect to myself? And that reconnection to the self doesn't happen through here. Because if it happened through here, boy, I'd be the most enlightened person in the world. Because I've thought about this, and I've thought about this, and I've thought about this. And I've written about it. And people write to me, they do. Thank you, your book changed my life. I'm thinking maybe I should read it myself. Because thinking about it, and even talking about it, and teaching it, and helping other people get there doesn't get me there. Because you can only get there in here. You can only get there through the body. You can only get there at the very core of your being. So there's nothing out there. There's nothing I'm going to say. There's nothing else anybody else is going to say that's going to get you there. All the teachers tell you that. And all anybody can give you is just clues. So I hope I've given you some clues tonight. But let me finish with a quote which, you know, as it says in the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, so whatever you do, don't shut off your pain, accept your pain, and remain vulnerable. All these things we do to get away from pain, like being nice or doing substances. Don't shut off your pain. However desperate you become, accept your pain as it is, because it is in fact trying to hand you a precious gift, the chance of discovery through spiritual practice what lies behind sorrow. And don't we know, he says, and only far too well, that protection from pain doesn't work, and that when we try and defend ourselves from suffering, we only suffer more, and then we don't learn what we can from experience. Or as Amos says, the surest way to get to hell is to resist going to hell. But I also know this, and do I know it? I do know it. Do I embody it all the time, or much of the time? No, I don't. Do I know it? Yes, I do. And there's a deeper knowing that just says aha to something. And I'm sure that that deeper knowing is in you and in all of us. And this is the possibility of being human. And the Buddha said, he talked about the interconnection of all things. He says, contemplate the nature of interconnected arising during every moment. When you look at a leaf or a raindrop, meditate on all the conditions, near and distant, that have contributed to the presence of that leaf or raindrop. Know that the world is woven of interconnected strands. This is because that is. This is not because that is not. This is born because that is born. This dies because that dies. The birth and death of any dharma, or any phenomena, he means in this sense, are connected to the birth and death of all other phenomena. The one contains the many, and the many contains the one. Without the one, there cannot be the many, and without the many, there cannot be the one. So that sense of connection with which Sadhguru ended her exercise is also where I would like to leave you. Because I know that I'm really talking to brothers and sisters. I know that every single one of you have experienced that dancing monkey of the egoic mind. I know that it's been active in many of you even during this conversation. And why shouldn't it be? That's the nature of it. But I also know that doesn't make you into an addict. It just means that that's the experience that you're having. And I also know that the sense of connection that Sadhguru's exercise encouraged in us, when we're able to be still and we're able to pay attention to what's actually there, then that sense of connection isn't just an idea, it's actually a reality way beyond the separation that the mind would otherwise impose. Thank you very much.